everybody, my goodness me, I didn't know whether at 9:30 in the morning on the opening day of a 2-day conference whether we'd have tumbleweed or whether we'd have lots of people, but this is fantastic. Really, really great start to the day, so brilliant. It genuinely does not feel, does it, that it's been 10 months since many of us were gathered in Birmingham that time for the first ever Interchange conference in its new format, almost a year ago, as I say. But now we're back, shockingly, almost double the size, a touch further north, more than 2,000 registrations, I think it is, it's probably gone up again, across today and tomorrow, with people joining sessions across 8 different conference streams. Andrew, Paul, what could possibly go wrong? That's the question. But fortunately, my role today is the simplest one of all, because I just simply have to welcome you all here to Manchester Central and give you a very, very rapid flavour of some of the themes, I guess, that run through the conference over the next couple of days. So as chair for the second year running of the Interchange Steering Group, I want to start by just saying thank you very much to everybody who's on that steering group. It has grown this year. I can see most of you actually dotted around the hall today. So thank you very much to everybody who's been part of that growing table. I think last year I told a bit of a story about that group because it really was a little bit crazy. But just the same as last year, we once again began with a pretty eclectic list of ideas, learning from previous events. We refined and distilled them down, and then just the same as last year, every time we thought we had it nailed, somebody had a good idea and we had to change it again, and we spotted something we'd missed again. Just the same as last year, that juggle between speakers and topic ideas and sponsors and their needs and all the rest of it was very real, wasn't always an exact match, I guess. So just the same as last year, what I'm trying to say is the steering group meetings were pretty lively, quite a lot of fun, quite provocative at times, but generally speaking, they seem to have gone pretty well. But most fortunately, just the same as last year, Andrew and Paul this time around, I think, were ready for us. We all knew each other better. There were some new members of the group, as I say, but actually having hurdled last year's Interchange bar with what looked like ease, really, our job today, I suppose, is to make sure that we're here to help them do the same again on a bigger scale over the next couple of days. So as you just heard from Marverine, your biggest challenge, I suspect, given that there are so many different conference streams running, the biggest challenge over both today and tomorrow is to figure out where to be, when, and what's on. And I promise, if you do engage with the whole programme, there is a whole ton of stuff that really is quite interesting, and it really is a unique opportunity to get across all these different topics. So I'm not going to outline it all to you now, you'll be pleased to hear. But I do want to just take a few moments to pull out some key themes and highlights, because actually, again, similar to last year, it's not just about the title of a particular topic or a particular speaker talking about their particular area of expertise. It's actually about how those threads and themes join together and what's kind of lurking behind the detail of those session titles. Because we all know, don't we, from a transport point of view, certainly, that perhaps more than ever now, with the latest social and political and economic landscape, we know that transport is still the great connector of people and places and goods and economic activity and opportunities and growth and so on. And with data and AI opening up new ways of connecting all those different things together, both physically and also virtually, the point, though, is that the context behind all of that is completely different and is changing really, really fast. And at the moment, we are failing to keep up with the needs of that context, that landscape in the wider world. Because we know that landscape now houses a deepening, widening, still accelerating climate crisis, linked biodiversity crises, a lack of resilience in our systems, our assets to cope with today's risks, let alone the things that we actually know are coming over the years ahead. It's not maybe, it's when. It's the same landscape where we also find widening social equity divides, not just locally, although certainly locally, but also globally. Because it means that the people who are least able to cope and least able to change are the ones who are going to be most affected. And again, it's not a maybe, it's a dead cert. So we know that transport and the wider built environment systems have been part of creating all those opportunities in the past, but also part of the problem in terms of creating that landscape of existential crisis over hundreds of years. But actually, we didn't mean to cause a lot of that harm. But now we absolutely have to turn ourselves into a set of sectors that are part of the solution. So as I said last year, I think that means, in fact I said various other things last year, but one of the things I talked about last year was that what that means is we need to get ever more comfortable as a profession with ever faster change and being part of that change, not just watching it happen around us and sort of hoping that somehow we can just kind of stand still and hope nobody actually notices. Because every time we put off something until tomorrow that we know we should have actually done today or done differently today, we are guilty of continuing to cause harm, of continuing not to solve those big world crisis points that we actually can have an influence on. And I know it probably feels like this is a big picture, global talk, but actually it's about local change and an awful lot of it, and that's what makes a big difference overall. And we didn't sign up, any of us, for causing harm in our careers. So let's actually really think about what that means in terms of the context of what each of us can actually do. But second, I think in the context of that change point, it means we have to be open, we have to be willing to adjust our skills and recognise that what good looks like now, it always has changed to some extent, but it's now changing faster and faster and faster. And it's not change always that's pulled by the potential, the new possibility, for example, of new tech. It's change that's actually being pulled by these existential crisis points. It's not about whether we want to change. It's about the fact that we must, we should, we ought to change. Because we have to tune in, we have to listen, we have to learn, we have to admit when we actually don't know what somebody else is talking about and say, can you just stop a minute, can you just explain what that word actually means? Because I'd rather not go off and just repeat it in a way that's actually out of context. I wonder, in terms of challenging ourselves, not just right now, but generally going forward, whether we might all do a bit more of that. Because for me, that means we've got to be much more creative. We've got to think about how we create the right options. We've got to think about how we make decisions. It means being brave, going out on a limb from time to time, putting together a business case in a different way, just to see if we can start to test where the boundaries lie in terms of all those different things to do with change and investment and so on. And that brings me around to my third and final piece in terms of this change bit, because the change, of course, that we're talking about creating, it's not all in our immediate gift, it's not all in our immediate hands. We've got to create a whole heap of change out there to do with the wider public and their changing behaviours, because a lot of that actually isn't in our direct control, but it's absolutely in our indirect control. It isn't just about the technical professionals and, I guess, decision makers and infrastructure making changes that, we do this and we get that. It's actually about trying to work out how we encourage a whole new set of behaviours so we can actually go faster while we work on some of the other things in terms of that direction of travel and the pace of change against these different crisis points. So, just to take one giant example, and maybe a really obvious one from my point of view, is the one around carbon emissions. Because we need to home in on our abilities to enable the right kind of behaviour change amongst the wider public out there. We've got to make it easier for people to do things that are more in line with what we need to see in terms of outcomes. I'm pretty confident that our neighbour 3 doors down or 2 streets across or whatever it is probably isn't going to be the person who holds the key to industrial decarbonisation or the national grid upgrade or the rollout of EV charge points across our infrastructure network. I don't know your neighbours, maybe somebody does actually live next door to that person, I don't know. But I'm guessing that most of us don't have neighbours who can do that. But all those people, in terms of their everyday life, they are living in a way that actually is still causing us a problem in a world where emissions are still rising. There is a whole heap of stuff that we can help them to figure out, whether it's to do with travel patterns or home insulation, energy use, food choices, holiday plans. This is new territory for lots of us in this space. But actually it's an and, I think. It's not an or. It's something we need to build into our skill set. So on that basis, there'll be no surprise, I think, for all of you to see multiple sessions across the 2 days of this conference that tackle all of the themes I've just mentioned across a whole range of different viewpoints. So my recommendations in terms of where to go, well, you can play it safe, you can hang out in here, you'll hear all sorts of fantastic speakers standing here, panellists and so on, discussing things throughout the course of the day, or you can venture out to some of the other conference streams. Most of them are literally in this little patch just here. So you'll find the rest of the core interchange agenda in Charter 2.3, which is just outside here, talking about resilience and connectivity and faster decarbonisation. You might want to join the Google Prism for some of their lightning talks. That's, again, just adjacent to this room here. You can hear about the latest in transport and AI and top tips for better digital project outcomes. Also today is TIP Live, transforming infrastructure performance for those who are uninitiated, sessions on embedding TIP, the latest news of progress against its core themes, a block of sessions on leaderships and horizon scanning. And, of course, today is also the day for ITS UK, which is upstairs in Exchange 11. And you can join from late morning to hear sessions on all sorts of things that are affecting the world of ITS, connectivity, autonomy, safety, diversity, sustainability, and so on. But whatever you do, don't be tempted to sneak away early today, because not only is there a networking drinks reception at the end of the day, but there's also a special announcement from Google Cloud AI and ZFT here, I believe, at 5:15, and a guest appearance from Andy Burnham at 5:30. So do not be tempted to sneak away early, as I say. And of course, tomorrow, if that's not enough, you can come back and do it all over again. So tomorrow, it's the STV conference, kicking off an all-day event programme where they are looking to unpack the wicked problems that exist for the world of the subnational transport bodies, things to do with technology change, travel demand change, the challenges of very varied geographies even within those subnational areas, but also a really healthy, positive dose of best practice delivery showcased for everybody. It's also tomorrow the moment when the Places Hub comes to life, so a focus on regeneration funding, the UK Infrastructure Bank, private finance, public-private partnerships, all that kind of thing. And if that isn't enough, there are still even a few places left in terms of the roundtables that are being run across the interchange programme for tomorrow. So counting them up, there are 25 specialist small sessions running in 3 time blocks tomorrow. I believe there are still spaces available to sign up for those if you haven't already. Some, or are they full now? I don't know. Anyway, some places available. Some are full, some still have places. If you haven't signed up and there's a theme or a topic you'd really like to go and dig into at a roundtable, look online and be quick, because I'm saying this to quite a lot of people right now and I suspect those places might be gone quite soon. So it's a bit exhausting even talking through all of that, but I just have one more crucial thing to mention before I close, and that is to say thank you to Andrew Wheeler and to Paul Dowding. There's Paul. Well, I can't see Andrew. Oh, sorry, I'm reading it wrong, aren't I? Yes, Andrew Dowding and Paul Wheeler, there we go. They've even swapped surnames because they work so closely together. It's all very well sitting around a steering group table, dreaming up ideas. It's all very well having the luxury of dropping in today and sort of, spotting a session that catches your eye and that kind of thing. But actually just spare a thought for the two of them, making sure these multiple sessions across multiple rooms, multiple stages are all unfolding as they should, and for the planning and the replanning and the re-replanning, and making sure that we don't have too much repetition, but also not too much deviation from those core themes I was talking about, all the while keeping everybody happy in terms of speakers and panellists and sponsors and so on. So I know it's really early in the day. I guess there's still time for it to all go horribly wrong, but I doubt it will. And we might not get another chance a bit later on. So I just wondered if you don't mind, just to take a moment to say thank you to Andrew and to Paul for getting all of this interchange programme up and running over 2 days. It just would not happen if it wasn't for their effort, their personal care, their love, frankly, for what it is that all of us do. So Andrew, Paul, thank you very much.